Hope you enjoyed this episode with Stephen Plowman of Baird Business Capital. Thank you again, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, great. That was great. So now,
hey Chris.
Yeah.
When I said I appreciate it, that wasn't for the film. I really mean that.
Oh, well, I appreciate. Listen, I thank you, and I what I said too. I appreciate everything that I appreciate you coming on here. I mean, it's an honor.
Well, I might have gotten where I am now, but it had taken me 2 or 3 more years.
Thank you.
To get here, and I really was one of these guys who is a banker who kind of looked down on this and kind of was like, these guys don't know what they're doing, and I was totally wrong.
Well, thank you for admitting that. At least you admit it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Chris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of CCTG graduates, lenders, and everybody else in between. My name is Chris Roglieri, President and CEO of Commercial Capital Training Group. And this episode, I'm very excited to meet a past graduate that's been out for a long time now. And I got a chance to, he was graciously enough to do a testimonial for us years ago. And I'm excited to revisit him and see kind of how his business is doing. He's one of our, at this point, I'd say a veteran. It's been that long. But ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Stevens Plowman of Baird Business Capital and Consulting. Hey, Stevens.
Good afternoon. Great to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you again. Looks like all is good. Everybody's healthy, and
everybody's healthy, and in the world we live in today, that's wonderful.
That's all we can ask for, I guess, at this point. It's great to see you again. I haven't seen you. You came through, I believe, in 2016. Is that correct?
I'm thinking it's 2016. I quit my earlier job 2015. I wandered around for about a year, and I think it was 2016.
And you know what? That's a good thing. If you can't remember when you came through here and you're still doing it, that's actually a good thing in my book. Well, no, it is a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. And so let me just start off. What did you do? You said you gave up your job in 2015. What did you do prior to even finding CCTG, and what led you? How did you find CCTG?
Well, I'm a longtime commercial banker, and really at the age of 57, I had some cancer issues, and by the time that got the treatment done, I really decided to retire at the age of 60. I've been running a bank for nearly 30 years. I needed a change. The cancer kind of brought me around to looking at life a lot different. So I resigned from my bank back then, stayed on the board, and really kind of took a year off to decide where I was going to be in life. I really enjoy financing operations. I enjoy working with people. I came across CCTG through the internet, started making my inquiries, and really thought it's kind of where I kind of wanted to go into the commercial loan brokering business. And really, I kind of wish I'd done it 5 years earlier, like at 55 instead of 60.
Yeah, and you have an interesting perspective, because you said you were a banker, and I've trained a lot of bankers in the last 12 years that have come through here, a lot of people like yourself. What made you, at the bank, we all know the bank, right? And we know what the bank's good at and what they're not good at, what the inefficiencies and the decline ratios, just because a bank has a box mentality, right? Every bank has their requirements, but what did you see in being a commercial loan broker? Did you I mean, I know what you see now, but what did you see looking into it before you knew about what commercial loan brokering was about? Did you think there would be more opportunity, or did you happen to know a loan broker that you dealt with at the bank?
No, I never really dealt with a loan broker before, but it was the independence of the operation. In
Mm.
addition to which, I had already once I found about your organization and started spending a lot more time diving into it, I really came up with the model that I've used, and I hoped it would be successful, and it has been. But I really, you're 100% correct in the sense that, you know, when you're a banker and you're sitting on that side of the desk, not only do your hands get tied, but you become very inward looking. And it's just the challenges in the regulatory world that they live in that causes that. And I really thought that this would give an opportunity for a more broad outlook. Again, you know, I'm in the second half or twilight years of my career, probably. And I wanted to have an occupation that I could control all aspects of it.
Right.
And I wasn't going to be controlled by bank examiners or board of directors or that sort of thing. And really, I could deal with customers that I wanted to deal with, and not customers I might be forced to deal with because of the environment I was in.
Got
and,
it.
And it was really a liberating experience for myself.
Well, and let me talk about that. So now you come to CCTG. Were you worried at all, or were you pretty confident? First of all, what package did you purchase? Do you even remember?
No, I don't. I don't remember the name. It was the high level one, though.
Oh,
It
the
would have
platinum
been.
package. Yeah.
It would have been the higher level one.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
platinum. All right. So the platinum. So were you worried coming into it, or are you pretty, you know, and when I say worried, you know, we have all different levels of skepticism. You know, are we here? Are we in our basement? Did you get scammed? You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I do it, and I can still remember your first presentation was addressing those issues, and I think maybe you had a full room.
Yeah.
So would that be 20 people, maybe?
I ran this table could fit about 20 people. Correct.
Okay, and you addressed that issue that, you know, you had some people thinking, you know, that it was a scam and that sort of thing. And, you know, you are a little, you know, when you're dealing with totally off the internet discussions, and maybe have a phone call or two,
Sure.
of that sort of thing. And so anyway, I knew you were for real, but I didn't know at what level. And then the other, which was my problem, was, again, if you come out of banking for so many years, you have a tendency, which I've now found is completely wrong, to look down a little bit on commercial loan brokers. And you're limiting your own opportunities if you're a commercial banker and you do that. And, you know, the profession maybe 20 years ago, when people weren't as highly trained as they are now,
right,
that might have been legitimate. But in today's world, someone who's been out there for 5, 6 years, they're professional people. And a lot of the banks don't realize this until you develop a relationship with them.
right.
And my mistake was that I might have been one of these people who looked down a little bit, and I had a lot to learn. And I learned it.
Well, and yeah, I always say bankers are only as good as the institutions they work for in terms of, you know, products and what they know and don't know. But I'm fascinated to know, when you went through training at the end, were you like, wow, like there's all these products that I didn't really, you may have heard about, but you didn't really fully understand, or like, did you have the coming to Jesus moment at the end of training?
I knew about all the products, but I didn't know how to use them,
Okay.
or I didn't know how to access them. So that was a huge difference. And then I came out of an environment that was still strictly looking at traditional commercial bank loans. And so the alternative lenders, the private equity lenders, was a world that I didn't know how to access, and I didn't know how to present myself to them to gain their access. So,
Right.
so literally the learning how the different lenders that you presented had their products and their underwriting and their processing, and of course, most important, how the commission was calculated.
Right.
It was an eye-opening experience for me. And I'd already been in the business for 40 years.
Right now, and let me ask you another question I'm dying to hear your answer about, because I oftentimes when bankers such as yourself with a wealth of banking experience attends the training, they struggle in the beginning because at the bank you're always rate driven, right? Rate, low rate, low rate, low rate, low rate. Where if you're going to sell alternative financing, there's so much more than just the rate. I mean, rate is one component, but there's so much more that goes into it. And it's almost like I always tell bankers that come in now, I go, you can't feel bad about selling a product that's high cost so long as it's the right product for the client scenario and they'll use the money the way it's intended to be used, not, blow it on Vegas. So did you struggle with that? We're like coming in from just like dealing with low rates. And listen, we work with lenders that have great rates, but when you learned of some of the products and the costs associated with the money, did that take time to kind of adapt to that?
It wasn't so much the rates, but it was that at least the bank that I was in and the two other banks before that, it was such a push on high quality credits that were, the no-brainer type transactions that we were pushing a lot of businesses out that were good businesses that deserved the credit they were looking for, but maybe they just didn't reach that level that the bank was requiring. And as such, I saw so many businesses that I would have to say no to that really were decent businesses. The bank I was at did not have an SBA product, so I couldn't enhance their ability. So if it wasn't an A credit quality business, I couldn't help them, and they were good businesses, and you'd have to let them go.
When you were at the bank.
Right. And so the different lenders that you presented, a lot of them were more than willing to entertain and look at these businesses and try to understand the overall risk parameters from them. And then we're able to provide funding. So probably today, 3/4 of my business are either going to be SBA or they're businesses that really still don't have an A quality. Maybe they're a B- or a C,
Sure.
But these are good, solid businesses that deserve the credit. And yeah, they may have to pay a little higher
Right.
Than a bank rate.
Right.
But I go back to them and tell them, get your cash flow up, and 3 years from now we'll refinance you down, and try to find a better rate.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of graduates employ that strategy, and it does work so long as you stay in front of that client. So tell me about your first 6 months out of training. I mean, so you left training, you learn all these products, and you get home, and now what?
Well, the first 6 months, I kind of sat on, not 6 months, maybe 3 or 4 months. I kind of sat on my hands because I still had some other obligations. So I probably really kicked things off entirely in 2017. And at that time, it was just myself. And most of my transactions were smaller, $100,000 type transactions. In addition to which, I really hadn't decided, did I want to stay with commercial real estate or factoring or equipment leasing? And I was trying to feel out the different fields. And so I wasn't real organized the first year or two. And it took me a year or two to get more and more experienced. First couple of deals were smaller, like say $100,000, seemed to be equipment, maybe some house flippers, that sort of thing, which in today, I do very, very little of that. But that's what I started off with.
That's where you started. Okay. And throughout the years, did you kind of develop a niche of what you tend to like to work on most or what you see?
Right. Well, we developed now there's almost all commercial real estate or SBA. Now then, we keep all your other products and services that you introduced me to available, but we don't look for those. So,
Right.
so for example, probably a third, somewhere from a third to 45% of my current business is now with repeat customers. And so, we might have gotten them a commercial real estate loan 3 years ago, and now they need some working capital also.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
so then, and maybe they don't qualify for the bank, and it's got to go factory.
And,
So it's important for me to have those,
right.
but we don't go after them.
You don't go after them. Tell me about, have you built up a little team?
Yes. My goal was then to attract other senior commercial bankers that were looking at their retirement age, but really still wanted to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've attracted guys over the years that have long experience in commercial lending and community banking. I tease them that they really just want to keep their wife off their back and stay busy. And a couple of them are that way.
Right.
And there's nothing that you have to teach them except the environment of dealing with multiple lenders. I mean, they are very experienced at commercial underwriting. And then I've been able to attract some younger guys that are in that 30 to 40-year-old bracket that maybe have left the bank for a couple of years or have left the bank for whatever reason, have joined me for 6 to 9 months wanting to get back into banking, but they want to keep their hand in play while they have this internship to get back into banking. So, we know starting off that you're only going to be here 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Then they end up at a bank. Then I obviously have a conduit into that bank. And I have a friend in that bank that will listen to me and return the phone calls, return the emails, and be honest and upfront with me. So that's kind of been the model. I've actually gone after the staffing like that more than I have commercial customers.
Commercial customers. Well, and the reason why, and we talk about this in class, right? But those people tend to come with networks, right? You're essentially bringing them on board, so you have greater access to those networks, which are business owners, real estate investors, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and most of them are in the St. Louis market. And, again, if they're, if a 35-year-old guy's been in the business for 10 years, he's got a network. He's already getting referrals, and he doesn't want to lose them when he leaves one bank till he moves to the second bank.
Right.
And so in turn, we can work with him.
Work with them. Tell me about the largest deal you ever closed.
Largest deal we've done is 11 million. And that's a big deal for us. And it was a hotel with a convention center over in Illinois. It was a case where the family was starting to age out. They were doing some estate planning work and really wanted to take the equity out and split it up among the different family members. Took about 6 months to complete. I worked with a very good lender that was one of your introductions.
Did you do CMBS for that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I got 25 basis points for a nice sized deal. And really, it wasn't a lot of work. After the first couple of meetings and getting things organized, the lender took over, really did most of the work. And really, at that point in time, I did nothing more than kind of push the borrower every now and then slightly to produce more documents.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it's the squeaky wheel. And I really didn't have to push the lender too much. Sometimes I have to push lenders, to also respond.
Sure.
In this case, we didn't. And it was a nice transaction.
Yeah.
Everybody was very happy at the end of it.
Yeah. No, it seemed like you did, a good thing for, for the owners there, helping them navigate that.
And about 9 months later, the father who had organized it all, he passed away. So this was done very timely for his family.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's powerful. Very powerful. Um, what's one thing that you don't like about the business? I mean, I guess the commercial loan brokering business compared to the bank.
Well, it's probably the same sorts of things when a client or a customer is unrealistic about their own expectations.
Mm.
And they really believe that they're a B credit quality, but they're a C credit quality. And you got to sit down and talk to them, and you do it over the internet, or sometimes you can, meet face to face. It's someone that's worked very hard for their business, and really they've got a good family business, but they're not spending the time for documentation of their financial statements, and they don't see a need for
Mm.
it. And they deserve the funding that they're looking for, but they're not a B credit simply because they're not doing their own documentation.
Right.
And a lot of times it's, they want to shoot the messenger, and I understand that, but that I find the most frustrating.
Yeah. I oftentimes I always say, not only are you a professional loan broker, but you're a psychiatrist, you're a counselor, and you're a parole officer. In some cases, I mean, you're beating people up, and yeah. It's
I have a deal right now going on that nice size transaction, approximately $2 million. A very viable, and matter of fact, this is a repeat customer that I did a transaction for last year for about $1 million. But it's a syndication, and the guarantor in it simply is not strong enough. And I've taken it now to 3 different lenders. All 3 lenders have said the same thing, that the guarantee is nice, but for this size of a transaction, it's not strong enough. And the client is having a hard time.
right. Yeah. And it's sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust our expectations.
Yeah.
Or kind of revise another solution. What's the best thing you like about the business and what you do now?
Well, really, I enjoy talking to the customers after the transaction is closed, and seeing the success of their business, and knowing that somehow I had some small contribution to doing that. It really does personally provide me with meaning for my professional side of my life. And it really upsets me too, though, when I see a business go downhill, after it's been successful. But the good part is seeing those successful businesses.
Yeah, and I as I was reading here in the notes a little bit, as a kid, it seems that you worked on the railroad for 2 years, so that's hard labor. I mean,
It was.
and when I was a kid, I worked on roofs.
Well, that's hard labor, yeah.
And it's hard labor too, so I understand. But people always say, and it's all relative, right? Is this business hard? And I'm like, well, it's not easy. It's hard in different ways, but at the end of the day, you're not digging ditches, right?
Yeah.
You're not on a railroad. You're not on a hot roof. I mean, like people say, oh, I heard SBA loans are hard to do because they take a long time. And it's like, well, it does, but again, you're not spending 8 hours digging ditches, all
Yeah.
relative.
Yeah.
But I think that's good. I think that shapes us into having a good work ethic, good old fashioned manual labor.
Exactly.
What's one thing? So I'm going to ask you a couple quirky questions.
Sure.
What's one thing that, somebody just looking at you they've never met you, they don't know who you are, that they wouldn't normally think you're into or that you do?
Well, I think probably the one that's the quirkiest that people, especially at my age now, but I've got about a 40-year career in martial arts.
Really?
And yeah, and it covers both judo and taekwondo, and I no longer belong to a school, in which I have most of that career.
Right.
But I still work out with the nunchucks pretty often. I might do 2 or 3 workouts a week with them. I still do my forms. I might do a workout exercise for about an hour and do 500 kicks per leg.
Wow.
And I don't think most people really realize that.
So you could kick some ass, is what you're saying.
Then on the intellectual side, I hope to finish this month. I've been reading all of our presidents of the United States in chronological order.
Oh.
And I started off obviously with President Washington. And my goal was to go through all of them until I was born. And I'm about halfway through President Eisenhower. This will be my last one.
Anything particular, any one president sticks out that you didn't know before?
Probably Grant, I've changed my entire opinion about. He came from such humble beginnings, and he was very, I mean, his life really was at the bottom of a well when the war started. And really he was able to feed his family, but really they almost went hungry. And 6 years later, he's president. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
That's a hell of a change.
Yeah, and it was just a difficult life, and he was the man at the times. But on this whole, and this has taken me almost a year and a half to do this, but what's been the most amazing to me is almost all of these presidents, how they lost battles, they lost battles, they lost battles, and they never gave up. All of them were individuals that the concept of defeat just wasn't even in their mind. They literally lost more than they won. A good example, everyone thinks that George Washington was wealthy and he did own a lot of ground, but he had no money. He had to actually borrow money to pay for his trip for his own inauguration.
Wow. Wow. That is something interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. Wow. Well, I wish you success in that. Hopefully you get through, the rest of the presidents there.
I'll make it. Yeah.
I've never met anybody that has actually done that feat. So, are there any questions that you want to ask me? Personal, business, doesn't matter what it is.
Well, again, it's been 2016 maybe since I went through the program. I'm sure I explained that, but really I am curious about how you came up with the idea of commercial capital training group, because I really think you're one of the leaders in the commercial loan brokering business. And it's an industry that I think is expanding dramatically right now. And I don't know, is foresight or what, but I'd really like to rehear how you made that decision.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. I'll try to do the short version, but my story was, I had worked for a bank a long time ago, and I'm proud to say I've only been a banker for 3 years. You're in it for 40, but you got more scars than I do, at least in banking. But yeah, I got let go from a bank, and I didn't know what to do, right? And
you're one of the guys I like to pick up.
Right. I got let go. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but and mind you, I dropped out of college. So I do not have a college degree. But I worked, fortunate enough, I got a job in banking, and that didn't require a college degree. It was basically a BDO, business development officer, for an equipment finance division. And I got laid off after I helped build up a portfolio, and I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. And the thing is, I remember there was a broker that I used to deal with that sent me deal flow, and he got paid really well from the bank off the deals he submitted me, more than I somehow surmised more than I was even getting paid at the bank, which wasn't much at all. And so I asked that broker, "Hey, when I got laid off, I said, can I take you out to lunch?" And he agreed to, and I went, and I made him sit there for about 5 hours. And to this day, it's the most important lunch I've ever been to. I actually have the receipt in my office at home, the actual receipt. And I picked his brain. What do you do? And he told me what he does. And he was kind enough. He knew my situation. He was kind enough to set me up. I knew equipment financing because that was my deal at the bank. He set me up with some national lenders that I could broker deal flow through. I did not have a non-compete at the bank. And so I went to my network, and that gave birth to my own brokerage company. And I started out small, and then I expanded. Though I realized, look, I wanted to expand, not just be concentrated in one product segment. And it took years and years just to learn other product segments that I can incorporate and cross-sell to my clients and kind of be that one-stop shop. And when I got that business going, it blossomed, it bloomed. I brought on salespeople. And then right around, 2006, 2007, I got the idea to start a training company for several different reasons. Number one, I would see brokers out in the field all the time that had no clue of what the hell they were doing. Not a damn clue. I mean, they couldn't even tell you what DSCR was. They couldn't even analyze anything properly. And I used to ask these brokers, "Hey, how did you get into business?" "Oh, I went through so and so's training." So CCTG is not the first training company to ever exist in the field. However, there was one around a little longer, but in my opinion, they weren't doing things properly for what they were charging. And it was a travesty, in lack of better words, of what these brokers were not being taught. And so I knew there needed to be improvement. Number two, it's one of those things where I said to myself, I actually started training other other sales shops back in those days saw my model and they're like, "Look, hey, you know what you're doing. Can you train my staff on this certain product segment?" And so it wasn't CCTG yet, but people said, "I'll pay you for a day or two to come down and train my sales staff on how to go out and get ABL deals or factoring deals." And I thought to myself, "Wow, you're going to pay me to do that?" Sure. I never thought I would be training. If you would have asked me, would I be training? I would have said, "You're crazy." But when I started doing that on a one-off basis, I actually fell in love with something that I never knew I had, which is training. I love educating people. I'm really passionate about it. That's where I caught that bug. And so if you take all those things and kind of combine them together, plus the fact that I sleep good at night, and here's the feel good section of this. This is a for-profit entity, CCTG. I don't doubt that, right? It's a profitable entity. However, I sleep good at night, and what really keeps me motivated to do this month after month is the fact that, like your case, here you were somebody that wanted an opportunity. Yes, you paid us for that opportunity. We performed the goods and services and continue to do so, but you went out and now you're helping other people. So we in turn helped you with your dream and goal. And now you took that and you're helping other people. And so what really keeps me motivated is to think like, wow, all the people that Stevens helped, they may have not have gotten help without you coming through here. And that's a really good kind of pass it on feeling. Does that make sense? So if you
Certainly.
combine all those things up, that's what caused me to create CCTG in 2009, because I knew the industry needed it. Because there is these, just, I call them, lack of better words, yahoos out there that, throw up a nice LinkedIn picture and they're like, "Oh, I'm a professional and I'm a loan broker," but they don't have a clue about the business. They do more harm than good. And they're not in the industry too much longer. They're only in the industry for maybe 5, 6 months and they're gone. And there is no standard in our industry. And I wanted to really set a high bar standard. Look, if you want to get in this industry the right way, learn etiquette, learn basic education about how to analyze things, that it would produce more in the industry. And you're a result of that. You're one of many results of it.
Well, the other thing I'd really like to know is your thoughts in regard to potential government regulations and licensing for people in our business.
I don't.
There's some of that going on in California,
Yeah.
and I don't know enough. I don't do anything in California, but
Right.
I'd like to know your opinion on that subject.
So federally, no. I don't hear, I don't see, I don't think federally there'll ever be something like that. I'd say never, but not in any distant future. On a state level, possibly, yes. California was the first and one of the leaders in that. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal for California. It was really intended for a moneymaker for California. We've counseled brokers how to do that. It's not a big deal. You have to apply for a license. They got to pay a fee. They have to, and it's about a couple month processing time. But during that processing time, they could still operate their businesses as long as they applied for it. And it's an annual renewal fee. They got to take a couple of questions, answer a couple of questions, and they get a license. Is it a pain in the butt a little bit because you got to go through, like anything, register? Yes, it is. But do I see more states doing that? Possibly. Sure. I mean, California was the poster child. Although, what's interesting, there was a study done on the effects of that, and the end result was that it did more harm than good. because it's preventing people from getting into the field at a quick enough time to help people. And
Okay.
so, to answer your question, I do think there needs to be some regulation, not over regulated. When I say some regulation, getting rid of the people that have felonies and
Yeah,
bank
yeah,
fraud,
definitely.
because
Yeah.
there's a correlation to that in our field. A lot of people that have bank fraud or have been accused of fraud in banking financial related transactions, sometimes they just reinvent themselves in another area of finance, if that makes
Sure.
sense. So that I do agree with. Again, I think California was the poster child of that. Could it spread to other states? Sure. I think it can. Um, but at the end of the day, it's probably a good thing so long as it's not overkill. And if anything, it's a pain in the butt for the broker.
The other point that I'd really like to know your opinion on, and I think it's been accelerated with COVID and the shutdown, is that more and more uh, bank officers themselves are all working from home. And that in itself has created an environment where I think at least it's become more, I think there's more commercial loan brokers out there than there used to be. And I think it's being driven by COVID and people working at home and the banks themselves realizing that just because you're working at home doesn't mean you have an inferior product that you're bringing to the bank. And then you have the advances of Zoom and DocuSign and other documentation. And I think it's making it easier and easier to be an independent commercial loan broker and do transactions all over the country. And
I
I'd love your thoughts on that.
I think it's very easy. I mean, listen, the proof is in the pudding. We just made Inc. Magazine's one of the fastest growing companies in the country again for the second time based on 2020 numbers. So our largest year to date at CCTG was 2020 because COVID. Plus, as a good company as we are, I like to think we had to adapt, so we went virtual. Now we have a hybrid system where you could attend live and virtual. I don't know if you can see our well, you can't really see from your vantage point, but we have this sophisticated camera system. So people can actually still learn from their homes and a live training. I have a camera person that follows me around. We have all cameras in this whole conference room. And so because of that, the only good thing that came out of COVID for our business is now we have a virtual option and we perfected that for people that, and even if people want to save money. So let's say pretend COVID goes away, there's no threat anymore. People could save $2,000-3,000 on travel and hotel if they want to learn from their own home. So that's the positive thing. And I agree with you. I think it forced people to rethink how they do business or to get into business, and they're tired of working from a place and beholden to that place. On the other hand, the other positive thing is exactly what you said. I don't think people look down on people working from home as much anymore because it's a reality. It frankly is a reality. And so, yeah, that's my opinion. That's my
Okay. Then you talk to enough lenders. You talk to a lot of lenders. Do you see any changing trends uh, uh, coming out of COVID? I mean, I think when COVID first hit, there was a lot of both banks and non-banks. We just locked up for a while.
Yep.
Now they've opened back up, but now you have COVID coming back again. And I just kind of would like your opinion of whether or not you see any trends here of locking down again.
I from what I see and what I hear, I don't. I mean, I think when COVID hit, nobody knew what to do because it was a force that we haven't reckoned with before. And I remember real estate shut down completely. I mean, people were like, we shut down our real estate program for what we do directly. And people were just, no one knew what to do. They had to wait and see if the world was going to end or not. Now I think, and now it's actually back bigger than ever. I mean, we have lenders that are getting more aggressive and they want more business, which tells me, they're fueling for funding. And I think the economy is slowly coming back in a good way. I think the wave is starting to really start pushing in a positive direction. If COVID came back, meaning, I don't know, there's all these variants now, Delta variant. I heard about this other variant that may be coming back. I think COVID's going to be here for a long time. I think it's going to be like the flu in that matter, right? So I think our economy now is better able to adjust based on outbreaks, because we know what we're doing now, right? We have intelligence. We know what we're doing. We know how to react when there's an outbreak. And more so, I think a lot of businesses that historically were shut down during COVID know how to react as well, like restaurants. Okay, we can't seat people because there's a big outbreak. Well, we're going to do takeout, and we know how to do takeout, and we adjusted to do takeout. So I don't think an immediate shutdown will happen again, particularly with COVID, because we've learned how to operate in that model. So yeah, hopefully, cross our fingers, nothing crazy happens. But it's all about adaptation, which is the success of any business. I think we had to adapt as CCTG, and it was our largest year to date. We had to adapt to a virtual format. You guys had to adapt, right? In terms of focusing on products that we're going to still generate money and help people. So everybody had to adapt. And I think the success or failure of your business came down to how well you adapted.
We did get tied up quite a bit in the PPPs.
Yep.
And, in the long run, it was, they were good because it helped people. I mean, literally, we had some customers it kept from bankruptcy.
Wow.
We have other customers that we opened up new relationships that sincerely appreciated the PPPs, that we will now be the first one they call the next time that they need some financing. But the PPPs themselves, from my perspective at least, were smaller transactions.
Sure.
We spent a fair amount of time on them, and I think that as a business, we got too over enhanced in them and too involved with them, and got distracted from what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And now we're trying to pull ourselves back.
Yeah, right. And I guess the good news is things are back, though. I mean, underwriting, people are funding. It's back to pre-COVID levels.
Chris, another thing that my customers are worried about, and I appreciate your opinion, is the general concern about inflation right now. How do you see that developing in the next 6 to 18 months?
Well, somebody's got to pay for all this. Right?
Yeah, normally that's taxpayers.
Yeah, well, I know, but I don't think that's going to be enough. But yeah, I agree. It is a concern. I wouldn't lie to you to say if it's not a concern. However, one of the things that somewhat controls that, it's not an entire financial mechanism, but one thing that controls that are rates, right? In our field, right? The one thing that we control, and I don't see the government raising rates at least anytime soon. I know there's been some talk about it, but I think rates are going to be historically down. Do I think the prices of goods and services are going to go up? Yes. We've already encountered that. We've already encountered in certain sectors the prices of goods and services have gone up. So, do I think it's going to be like, the 80s? You remember the 80s. Rates were, a decent rate was 18%,
Chris, my first home loan was 13%. Can you imagine that?
And that was good, right?
Yeah, I was happy with that.
That's what I mean. Do I think we'll get back to those days? I don't know. I mean, humans have short-term memory, but I hope not. But I think, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of spending going on. This new infrastructure bill that is set to be passed. I think it's with $1 trillion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to come somewhere. It's got to come somewhere, and maybe we won't feel it, but maybe our children will feel it. Who knows? Or at least my children will. So I wish I had a better answer, but I don't think in the next 12 to 18 months it's going to get out of control. I don't. Because I don't think the government is ready to hike those up, particularly right now when we're kind of starting to come back. So, well, listen, with that being said, I think we have, we have we covered a lot of ground here. One thing I did not know about you is that you are proficient at nunchucks. That's that's cool. I never could
Yeah.
figure them out. I always hit myself in the head when I tried.
Well, I hope you're using rubber ones then if you're hitting yourself in the head.
Yeah, they were rubber ones when
Okay.
when I was a kid. But in any event, Stevens, thank you so much for joining us, telling us a little bit your journey and your experience. And we continue to serve you, and it's a pleasure to have you part of our system.
Well, Chris, I also want to, reverse that of thanking you because really, I don't think I could have gotten started without going through the CCTG. And maybe I could have, but it would have taken me 2 or 3 more years to get where I am today. And I really appreciate it, and it's really helped me a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're a great man. I'm not saying that just because you agreed to do this podcast, but every time I had an interaction with you, you're a true gentleman. So I appreciate that, and happy to have you. Are you going to make it out to NACLB?
I don't know. I've got a mother-in-law that we've got some family issues right now. I just don't know.
Oh, well, no worries. I wish you the best with that. So thank you.
Although I've got a very good customer in Las Vegas that I'd really kind of like to get out there. I just closed the deal for them, some warehouses out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I'm out there, just put him in touch with me and I'll take care of him.
Okay. Okay. All right.
We'll split the commission.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again, Stevens. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. Hope you enjoyed this episode with Stephen Plowman of Baird Business Capital. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just Google Commercial Capital Training. You could see more interviews like this and probably 30 or so others. And subscribe to our, Joe, what am I forgetting here? I always do this. Subscribe to our phone app. So you could download the CCTG app for Android and iPhone, and you can see some interesting, cool content that comes out as soon as it comes out. So thank you again, and we'll catch you on the next one. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Chris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.